All of South America speaks Spanish, except Brazil. Why? One giant country, a different language, a different rhythm. The answer was drawn with a single line, by a pope, over 500 years ago. Stay with me, because that line shaped a nation's language, culture, and destiny. Did you know that in South America, a continent with 12 countries, only one of them does not have Spanish as its official language? That's right, just one. This country is the largest of them all. It is a vibrant land of rainforests, festivals, world-famous football. This country is Brazil, while its neighbors speak Spanish. Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile. Brazilians are chatting in Portuguese, singing in Portuguese, dreaming in Portuguese. It seems a little strange, doesn't it? Why would one single, huge country speak a different language from all the others surrounding it? The answer takes us back over 500 years. Imagine an old map of South America. Our story begins in the 1400s, a time known as the Age of Exploration. This was a period of great excitement and incredible bravery in Europe. Kings and queens wanted more power and more wealth. They looked to the sea for answers. They funded daring sailors to command small wooden ships into vast, uncharted oceans. These explorers were searching for new routes to Asia, a land famous for its valuable spices, silks, gold. Spices like cinnamon, pepper were worth a fortune back then. Finding a new way to get them was like finding a treasure chest. Portugal was a leader in this age of discovery. It is a small country on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Its sailors were some of the best in the world. Led by visionary leaders like Prince Henry the Navigator, Portuguese ships pushed farther and farther down the coast of Africa. In 1488, an explorer named Bartolomeu Dias finally succeeded. He rounded the southern tip of Africa, a major breakthrough that opened a new sea route to the east. But Portugal had a rival, its next-door neighbor, Spain. In 1492, Columbus set sail and landed in the Americas, a new world that Europeans did not even know existed. To settle the dispute between Spain and Portugal, Pope Alexander VI stepped in. In 1494, the two kingdoms signed a very important agreement called the Treaty of Tordesillas. You can think of it like two kids agreeing on how to share a giant cookie. They decided to draw a line down the middle to divide it. The treaty drew an imaginary line from the North Pole to the South Pole, running through the Atlantic Ocean, about 1,770 kilometers west of the Cape Verde Islands. All new lands to the west would belong to Spain. All new lands to the east would belong to Portugal. They had no accurate maps of the Americas yet. As it turned out, the line of Tordesillas cut through a piece of the South American continent. The easternmost tip of what is now Brazil happened to stick out just enough to fall on the Portuguese side of the line. This geographical fluke is the single most important reason why Brazil ended up being a Portuguese colony, while the rest of the continent, to the west of the line, was claimed by Spain. 6 years after the Treaty of Tordesillas was signed, Portugal made its fateful discovery. In the year 1500, a Portuguese nobleman named Pedro Álvares Cabral set sail from Portugal. He was in command of a large fleet of 13 ships. To avoid the calm waters and tricky winds along the African coast, he sailed far out into the southwest Atlantic. It was a common sailing tactic at the time. Some historians believe he was also secretly instructed to see if there was any land in Portugal's section of the globe. Whether by accident or by design, on April 22, 1500, Cabral's fleet spotted land. It was the coast of what would one day become Brazil. The sailors saw a mountain they named Monte Pascoal, or Easter Mountain, because it was Easter season. Cabral and his men went ashore. They met the local indigenous people, the Tupinamba. The first encounters were peaceful and curious. The Portuguese were amazed by the lush green landscape and the colorful parrots. They were also interested in a reddish wood they found, called pau-brasil. This wood would later give the country its name. Cabral claimed it for the King of Portugal, as it was east of the line. He sent one ship back to report the incredible news. Portugal then focused on Asia, harvesting Brazil wood along the coast until rivals appeared. So the crown began sending settlers to build towns and farms. When the Portuguese settlers arrived in Brazil, they did not find an empty land. The territory was home to millions of indigenous people who spoke hundreds of different languages. These native languages, like Tupi, Guarani, were the first sounds of Brazil. As Portuguese colonists began to build their towns and plantations, their language started to mix with the local ones. Early on, many settlers learned Tupi to communicate for trade and labor. Many words from indigenous languages became a permanent part of Brazilian Portuguese. Animals, plants, and places come from Tupi. For example, jacare, abacaxi, and Ipanema. This mixing created a unique dialect of Portuguese, different from the one spoken in Portugal. The colonists' language was being shaped by its new environment. It was absorbing the world around it. Later, the Portuguese brought millions of enslaved people from Africa to work on the sugarcane and coffee plantations. This was a brutal and tragic chapter, but it profoundly shaped culture and language. Their words, music, and spiritual beliefs blended with the Portuguese and indigenous cultures. Samba, cachaça, axé entered Brazilian vocabulary. Over centuries, European Portuguese, hundreds of indigenous languages, and various African languages swirled together to create Brazilian Portuguese today. As Portugal was building its colony in Brazil, Spain was busy building its own massive empire next door. Hernán Cortés in Mexico, Francisco Pizarro in Peru, conquered the powerful Aztec Empire, conquered the powerful Inca Empire. They were driven by a quest for gold and silver. They quickly established a vast network of colonies that stretched from modern-day California all the way down to the tip of Argentina. In all of these places, the Spanish language was imposed as the language of government, religion, and power. Spain divided its realm into viceroyalties, creating several centers of power: Peru, Mexico, Argentina, while Brazil was governed as one single unified colony. Spanish America later broke into many republics, but Brazil remained one enormous nation. The Portuguese royal family even fled to Brazil, making Rio the imperial capital for a time. So crossing into Brazil, you feel it. The food is different, the music has a different beat, and people move to a different cultural rhythm. Today, Brazil's Portuguese language is more than just a historical accident. It is the heart of its national identity. With over 215 million speakers, Brazil is by far the largest Portuguese-speaking country in the world, dwarfing even Portugal itself. The language unites a massive and incredibly diverse country, from the Amazon in the north to the Gaucho Plains in the south. It is the language of Brazil's world-famous music, like samba and bossa nova, and its beloved television shows, known as novelas. Its language connects Brazil to the Lusophone world, giving it a cultural and diplomatic bridge across continents. Brazilian Portuguese has evolved with its own slang, pronunciation, and expressions. It reflects European, African, and indigenous influences, a joyful, creative spirit. In a continent that largely speaks one language, Brazil proudly sings its own song, beautifully, in Portuguese. So, the next time you hear someone speaking Portuguese from Brazil, remember the incredible story behind it. It is a story of rival kingdoms, daring explorers, and a line drawn on a map that accidentally gave one nation a different destiny from its neighbors. Brazil's language is the enduring legacy of that history. It is what makes Brazil not just a different voice in South America, but a country with a rhythm and a soul all its own. In a continent of many nations that largely speak one language, Brazil proudly sings its own song in its own beautiful Portuguese.